Members of the board, I've talked about this I started a discussion about a year ago regarding what we do as a board and how we communicate that to the public and the agencies that we essentially oversee. I want to be very clear that there are two processes we know for discipline. One relates to an agency and its particular internal affairs process dealing with the commissioning of officers and the conduct of officers. What I'm talking about today has nothing to do with that. I am not advocating asking agencies to turn over internal affairs investigatory reports or information, as there is a Bill of Rights for police officers that many of us are aware of. There's statutory language that protects officers, and rightly so. Just because we wear a badge and a gun and enforce the law doesn't mean we give up our rights, just like the criminals don't, or the people we're enforcing the law against. So keep that in mind, that what I'm talking about is the work that the LEA board does, addressing the certification of officers. Not the commissioning, but the certification, which is important work. I feel that sometimes our decisions get lost in translation to our audience here today and the general public. I think that when the board takes action regarding someone's certification, it should be very clear what decision we made, whether that officer was cleared and those charges were dismissed or whether they were upheld. And what I mean by that is that what I'm proposing is that obviously we go into closed session because we're discussing essentially personnel matters and certification matters. And that can't and shouldn't change. We need to have a forum where we have the ability to have free and open dialogue regarding these cases. However, when we come out of closed session and announce what our decision is, it's a bit vague and ambiguous. I would like to propose that the LEA staff prepare a summary right after the meeting, and the public decisions are announced, that recaps what we've decided on each particular case, keeping in mind that our decisions are public record already. It's just difficult for the public to find, and even the agencies to find out what we've done. So once we determine discipline, I think that the summary should include the officer's name of the agency that submitted the LEA 90, the discipline decision, and the charges that are upheld and or dismissed, depending on what that was. And then I also think that we should take another step forward and actually post in a PDF format the stipulated orders. Those are also public record. And I believe that right now we require the public, the media, to IPRA those from DPS and ultimately the Attorney General's office, which causes a lot of work for a document that's already being made public. And then I would also ask the Attorney General's office, our counsel, to review what else is releasable or not, and just put it there for people to access. There's no point in having them have to IPRA and wait after we made a decision. That's what the proposal that I've thought about. I think it's transparent. It's all done in the open. And I think it's something we should talk and discuss. In no way does the LEA's oversight encroach on each agency's internal affairs process. Those are personnel matters. Those have there's other avenues that the public needs to go through to access that. I believe this is separate. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Chief. Any further discussion on the idea?
Mr. Chairman, my only question might be to direct the Marshal to ask him if there's anything in terms of workload that would prevent you from doing that in an easy and kind of a summary fashion.
That's right. I don't think it would be overly burdensome. I think the information is going to primarily come, I think, from the stipulated orders and from the contested hearings, the orders that are rendered by the board. We can summarize that. There's a couple of different formats. I've talked to Chief. Put it on the new website, I think, fairly easily. We can also include it as part of our newsletter if Chief thinks that would be appropriate as well. Quarterly report of everything that was done. I think both of those are exceptionally doable.
I will point out that we're about to launch a new DPS website that also has retooled the Law Enforcement Academy website, and their public access can be gained similar to how we put our policies online. The media and public used to have to IPR those, and now those are public documents. Anybody can go there. Hopefully, especially with the new website, they're updated and access that information. Now, we've done some research. I know Brian Koss, the assistant director, has done some research, and we've looked at some other states and what other states have done. Some states will do a summary, and they do not name the officer. They'll call Officer A or Officer B. It doesn't make much sense to me because, quite frankly, I believe our agenda names the officers in question here, and it's public record, correct? Correct. Look, I'm not here to shame anybody, but at the end of the day, officer conduct is important. There needs to be oversight, and that's what this board does, but quite frankly, maybe some of these officers that are not really holding true to the oath that we took, maybe we'll think twice about it if they know that ultimately what they do will be in the public eye. And I think sometimes we forget that. And I don't want officers walking around worried about it, but it should be ingrained from day one of the academy. You are a reflection of your community, of your department, and this profession. And when that's breached, it's an embarrassment for the entire law enforcement profession. And that's a tall order. I think that gets us here. And maybe, again, Director, I appreciate it. I think we can work with IT to make this posting pretty seamless. It's just about the mechanics of how it gets done. Maybe Brian can talk about some of the research you've done in some of the other states, if you'd like.
Have to. Members of the board, did a quick Google search, if you will, of the number of state posts, police officer standards and training. The 5 states I looked at, the state of Colorado, Utah, Texas, Wyoming, and Louisiana, I couldn't locate anything on their website that dealt with misconduct cases, other than a means by which for a complaint to be filed, but no listing of the outcomes. The state of Arizona publishes a name-redacted version of that product. Officer A, Deputy B did ABC. So it's a pretty comprehensive summary of the charges, allegations, incident, if you will, and then the outcome of that case. The states of Oklahoma and Washington State both post officers by name, agencies, certification numbers, certification dates, the original charges, the outcome, and it's posted in almost like a graph, sort of PDF kind of format. So it's Officer A, certification number, department, allegations, all basically in one line on a spreadsheet, if you will, in a PDF format. So of those 8 total that I just looked at briefly, there are a couple states out there that do publish a little bit more detail than right now we're currently making available to.
Thank you. It appears that you have support for this proposal. We have a couple options. We can ask the director to move forward on this project, or ask him to move forward on this project with putting in a specificity of the proposal in terms of when this could be accomplished, that specific information, and we can take a formal vote at the next meeting, or we can move forward and have him present a proposal and move forward on execution. It seems that there's support for this. The only note I advise is that my staff can be involved and make sure that the information is subject to public inspection. I believe it makes sense. It's a good idea.
Mr. Chair, I think because this is on the agenda as a discussion topic, not a vote, correct, that we can take between now and the next meeting time to have the director work with us to, in your office, to come up with a process and procedure, like you had said, have it vetted by our attorney to make sure that what we are putting on there is public record and appropriate, and then by the next meeting we can make it an action item and then get this done. I like that idea.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Chief, the other thing, just to remind the board did authorize us a start adding these names to the IATLAS National Recertification Index, and that is ongoing and that's continuing. So that just kind of continues to build on what we're discussing here today. That process is started, and so that does allow a little bit more access to the agency statewide, not necessarily the public at this point through IATLAS, but for the agency statewide, they do have the ability to log into that system and gain that history.
Great. Well, thank you, Chief, for bringing up this idea. We direct our director to move forward on building out and executing on this proposal to put final outcomes and other respective information that is public record. I think this is a very important step. Clearly, we don't want taxpayers and citizens having to struggle to gain what is easily accessible information, or more importantly, the Chief's point, many times these individuals as part of this board take action, and I think that any way we can directly communicate that to the general public further restores confidence in the law enforcement profession. Let's move on to item number 7, discussion of permitting public access to certification of conduct. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the same topic, Chief?
That's a separate topic, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. You also have the floor on this topic of conduct issues maintained by the school system.
So I think the second component of what we do here is the officer's record and or history of their employment and conduct, which really is housed at the Law Enforcement Academy on a system called Skills, which is in the process of being replaced. That system is being upgraded, and I think the director, assistant director, can talk about how that database operates. It's old, it's antiquated, but it does collect basic information about an officer's certification date, about their employment history or summary, about the certifications and their training, and also about some of the discipline that they face throughout their career. That is a document that can be obtained through IPRA. I believe there's some redactions. I actually had mine pulled, and obviously there's an entry issue, but there is some information on here that I certainly do not believe is appropriate for public release, like my date of birth. Not that I care if people know how old I am because of identity theft, but we've got some driver's license information, home address, which there's NA, so it doesn't look like they enter those fields, emergency contact information, and probably the new program will be revised to capture some of this, or maybe none of it at all. But what's important is the employment summary. The public can see where I have been commissioned and where I've worked, and whether I'm still working with an agency or been dismissed summarily from that agency or resigned or whatnot. It shows an officer's work history in New Mexico. It also, again, shows my education, some of the courses I've taken, and whatnot. We're public employees, and I think the public has a right to know that basic information. I don't believe right now that the skills database can be accessed by anybody outside the organization. So what I'm asking for is the board to entertain the thought and have the director research with the new system coming online. Is it possible that there could be a link between a portal on the new DPS website and this new database where anybody could go in and put in a name of an officer and pull up this basic history instead of having to go through the IPRA process or records process, ultimately for it to be the same information to be released. And Director, if you can add anything to that about the current system. I know we've talked, and you don't think it's possible under the old system, the skill system. I don't know where you're at with this new endeavor as far as records retention and information. Can you help us understand that?
Right. I am not the tech guy. I am so not the tech guy. But
you fired Brian?
Brian's much more technical than I am. I know, as you said, with the current system, I don't think it's possible. Plus, there's a lot of information, social security numbers, other things that would have to be redacted. Whether they can add it into the new system, we haven't really got that far with it. With the provided in the system, but we can certainly take a look at it and see if there's any way to provide the sort of information you're looking on, some sort of connection between the database and the new website. It's going to take somebody with skills better than mine, which is basically limited to checking my email. But we'll take a look at it. I can give you a report about the next meeting if that's satisfactory. By then, we should be a lot further along the road on our new database system to see if there's any way to make it publicly. I'm pretty confident at this point that hasn't been contemplated for the system. So I think the short answer is we can't do it today, but we can take a look and see if we can develop it into the system.
Well, I'll go ahead and pass down what I have after 25 years of this, a page and a half. Kind of sad that maybe I should have done more. But that gives the board an idea of exactly what the history shows. So maybe at this point it's a discussion topic, and we'll have you look at the feasibility of it and have our attorney look at the legality behind it to see if it's acceptable to have that information really readily available to the public.
The other option, if I may, would be perhaps a contact. If we can't do it into the system, we can certainly put a contact on the website of somebody that they can contact to get that information fairly quickly and efficiently.
Maybe
So
take it out of the hands of DPS records and have someone streamline that through your office might be another way to do that. Exactly. The link.
I think, I don't think we're going to have so many requests based on what we've seen so far with IFRS that it's going to be a game changer as far as our personnel. So I think possibly if we, a particular email address or a particular phone contact who can respond to these questions quickly might be another way to go. I don't think it would be requiring an effort for this information to get released. But again, I'll talk to the council first and figure out exactly what best to do. But I think we can do something that accomplishes your goal.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Chief, thank you, Director. Sure.
What is the, Director, what is the timeline on our new data management system?
We are beginning weekly meetings on putting it into place. I think at this point, May 7th is the date that it's supposed to go out. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson?
That is correct.
May 7th.
Maybe set back just a couple of weeks, but it's in the process. Contracts are being signed. Important people are talking to important people. We should have a kickoff meeting with the vendor, hopefully the first week of June.
If I may suggest to the board and director, it might be by the next meeting a good time to present exactly what that system does for us. And I think it's important. It tracks a lot of stuff related to a police officer's history, and it's important information. And I commend you and the LEA for embracing technology. The reality is, that the push behind this is we see officers that continue to apply with other agency after other agency after other agency, and the reality is that sometimes that's not the best thing for law enforcement in the state. Moving the problem from one agency to another, that good and bad conduct should follow somebody. It's an unfortunate byproduct of what we do in this reality.
One moment. I will just say that if you're in the process of system design, you should be able to determine if these two different systems can talk to each other, and then you can get permissions to port over specific fields from this form. So you wouldn't even have to change what's on here. It's just that in one venue, you could only get, say, the individual information, not the driver's license. So if you ask me now, you'd be able to do something.
Right. And as I said, we're beginning the weekly meetings with the vendor in order to put the final touches on, so we'll be sure that that information gets brought to them. And by the next meeting, I'll have a much better understanding of what the capabilities and limitations are in that regard.
Chief Casetas, I noticed on your training record
There we go. They're not complete.
that you were hired on December 12th, 1992. Congratulations on a 25-year career.
Thank you.